wow, you know my name? He goes, yeah, man, everybody's been talking about you. I was like, dude, let me see you jam. And that night was magic because he was leaving. He was a student of the Electric Boogaloos. He was like their protege, their upcoming protege, who was not only, he was Hispanic, which was different for them, but he was like the guy that was going to showcase their style, you know, to the popping world or whatever. And it was weird because he was leaving that group to try to search for other styles to add to his own signature style. And the way that I explain it, popping is like martial arts. A lot of the senseis, a lot of the masters, they wanted their students to stick with one style. You either boogalooed, or you did the robot, or you did locking. That's it. You're not supposed to mix the styles. And Bruno, what impressed me about Bruno, he went against the grain. He was breaking all the rules. He was adding anything that he could find to his style to grow as an artist. And thank goodness that him and I met, because after that convention, we worked out day after day after day. He was into my style and I was into his style. And what was really interesting, I exposed him to my animation and the stuff that I was doing, my ticking, and he exposed me to Boogalooing. So there was this fusion. As he and I were working out, we didn't even realize we were changing the face of how solo poppers would dance.
Right.
A lot of people were imitating our moves based on what we would come up with out of our practice sessions. You know, Bruno. It's funny. When I would see him dance in his later years, I see a lot of my style inside of him. And
really,
and if you see some of my solos, I never really could master his style. But one thing Bruno did, he was a traveler, meaning he helped me to learn how to, instead of being stationary, just to keep it moving. You know.
Is there any one thing that Poppin' Taco does that you always wanted to do, some style or some move, and you never could quite master it like he could do it?
It's funny that you said it, and you could see my homage to him when we were working out. I was trying to master his Cobra style because
right.
He has this. He does it in the movie Breakin, but
right.
Unfortunately, they didn't really capture everything that Bruno could do. I mean, he was at the height of his game when we did the film, and one of his signature things was his Cobra, and I think it was because he had said that he had dislocated shoulders, so he could do this really roll. It's like a chest roll to make himself look like a snake. And so I was really trying to master that, and it's interesting because if you look at my solo in Breakin,
right,
there's the one scene where I'm supposed to teach Kelly when Kelly comes over.
You got your shirt off, right?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. You know the scene.
I know the scene.
And you see me trying to do it, but
Well, I didn't know you were trying to do that, but now I do.
Yeah. And it's weird. I was only 15 years old, so it was right around that time where I was experimenting with his movements, and I was really trying to master that. But that was what he was known for.
Okay, so you meet Poppin' Taco, and let's move now to the Breaking and Entering documentary. I'm assuming I've seen the documentary. Both of you are in there along with others. So how did this opportunity come about?
Okay, so when I met Poppin' Taco and we began to work out, we were gaining momentum as, like a serious force in the popping world. And Bruno, people were trying to get with Bruno to learn his style and to learn from him. And jobs were coming through. He was networking with people who were working, and I remember that he had said that he wanted to take me to the next level and meet this guy named Adolfo Quinones, Shabadoo. And I was like, well, why meet him? He goes, well, if you meet him, he could probably, help you get some work or whatever. I was like, are you serious? And so he told Shabadoo, there was this little guy that's coming up, and he's a soldier in the arts. You need to come and see him. And Shabadoo was already working in the industry, and so he came down and I auditioned for him. I mean, I basically just, he said, let me see what you got, and I started doing my thing. And I had no idea that Shabba-Doo was trying to break into the 80s and become a force in the 80s. He was known in the 70s as a locker, but then when his group disbanded, he was trying to assemble a new powerhouse group. So when he seen me and Taco, he joined both of us, the two of us, in his group. So everywhere we went, as far as like auditions and stuff like that, or if we did any shows or whatever, we were known, as the Shabba-Doo crew. It was really, just kind of loosely titled, but people saw us hanging out with Shabba-Doo, and it kind of, for face value, it kind of helped Shabba-Doo learn what was going on, in the now. Instead of locking, he started experimenting with the new version of popping, or the styles that we were doing. So, Breakin' and Entering was a documentary about street dancing, and Shabba-Doo was in charge of getting the best dancers on film. And the thing is, we were already friends with Shabba-Doo. He thought it was a good idea to bring us to the director and the producers, but I had no idea that they were going to allow me to talk in the documentary. They were very. If you looked at Breakin' and Entering, they said, "Wow, man, this guy really." As far as like my portion of it, they said, not only does Boogaloo Shrimp dance and he can hold his own, but he's also well spoken and he can give interviews. I mean, he could articulate what he's doing. So in that documentary, I'm so glad the footage is out there, because I was explaining my style of dance, and in order to do that, you have to really be confident enough and sure about your style. So that's how I got Breakin' and Entering, and also that's the first time that I met Ice-T and Poppin' Pete was through the Breakin' and Entering documentary. Ice-T was a rapper, but he was also a dancer. So you see footage in Breakin' and Entering of him popping and locking.
What was your impression of him when you first met him?
Well, you know what? I mean, you got to remember my age, too. I was like 14. So a lot of these guys were a little bit intimidating to me, because, I mean, just their background and where they were from, it was like their demeanor was like, there was a lot of egos. Everybody was out to try to make a name for themselves. So a lot of the way a lot of those people got known was to create like a mystique about them. So, Shabba-Doo was like the suave, debonair guy and kind of standoffish, the ladies' man. That was his character. And Ice-T was more like he was forming his rap, and before it became aggressive, when I first met him, I didn't really talk to him that much, but I would just see how he would carry himself in the group of people that he was around. I was like, okay, well, I mean, this guy, I mean, I tolerate him, but he obviously had a very good respect for my dance, because in the documentary Breakin' and Entering, which is wonderful that they post that stuff on YouTube, because you can go back and research it. You see Ice-T on stage, giving me a shout out like, "Go ahead, Boogaloo Shrimp, I'm one of my solos." So that was kind of interesting. But years later, I didn't really appreciate the fact that he disassociated himself from breaking, and actually Breakin' and Entering. After he created this image of the hardcore rapper, it was like something that he was ashamed to talk about.
Right.